Now recording this event. Welcome very much to our third speaker series event for CEO Forum and the second one for 2021. Today we have speaker Steve Cornwell. He is the CEO and founder of NorthPass, and this will be a fireside chat format. It will be moderated by our professor Mukesh Patel. He is also our faculty advisor for CEO Forum. CEO Forum is a multidisciplinary club started by MBA students at Rutgers Business School. And we are interested in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking, connecting people across different fields to create new companies and new opportunities for students at Rutgers. It's also an RSVP initiative, and I'll have Mukesh speak a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Maria. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with Steve Cornwell, and this will be an exciting conversation. First and foremost, wanted to wish everyone that you're doing well in these crazy times, and that you're thriving. Hopefully, a shout out to the folks at NorthPass that are on this call, and a shout out to the CEO Forum Chief Entrepreneurial Officer, as well as Road to Silicon Valley Program, RSVP, and folks from CTech, the Collaborative for Tech Entrepreneurship and Commercialization, and ICE, Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. So these are the various ecosystems within Rutgers University, and also our friends from outside of Rutgers University that are joining us today. So let's get started. Steve, how are you doing today?
Good. Doing very, very well. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. I almost had to cancel after Rutgers gave a royal beatdown to my Indiana Hoosiers, and I wasn't sure if I could actually show up and do this in good spirits, but I'm here. So it's great. It's
all good. It's all in the collaborative, competitive spirit of sports and business, right? So
you got it. The Big Ten trumps all in the end.
Yeah, that's right. We're all colleagues and we're all partners. So thank you, and thank you, NorthPass, for this great opportunity to really dive deep into a New Jersey founder's journey and his aspiration to restore tech and innovation in the Garden State, where it all started in many ways and respects. So let's start right away. So first question for you is, I want to understand the backstory, the context, like who is Steve? So take us back for a moment to, yes, your high school days for context. And if we were students or classmates of yours in high school back then, what would we know about Steve? What were you like? Tell us a little bit about that, and including some of the interesting stories that people today may not know about you, or your interests, maybe your strengths, your weaknesses. Do a little quick SWOT analysis of yourself back in high school days. What would your friends tell us about you if we asked them and not you about who is Steve?
That's a good. I think you should ask them. That'd be really interesting. Just let me know what they say. Yeah, look, I think I had a really cool upbringing. Super fortunate in so many ways, but high school was a long time ago. I grew up in New Jersey, in Morris County, a small town called Kinnelon. I graduated high school in '99 there, and I would say I was very involved, but kind of in my own things that I was doing, I would say. So I was really into sports. I played sports all through school, but I was also really into music and into technology as well. And sports were great because it was such organized competition and discipline, and required, I think it built a lot of that.
What did you play?
Basketball.
Nice.
And so I think it I was really tenacious in that sense, like a really strong competitive spirit in that sense. But I was also
You
really
mentioned music, and so I love the fact that you're kind of like this multidisciplinary, uh, thinker doer. And so, like, play any instruments back then?
I did, yeah. So I played music all growing up. My mom was a musician, and so it was always deep in our household, like growing up. So
What did you play back then?
piano, drums, guitar, really anything. But I think I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't a great musician, right? I loved it. I also wasn't the greatest athlete, but I loved it. And I think you kind of asked like strengths and weaknesses. Like I never really excelled in any one kind of deep discipline, whether it was sports or whether it was music or anything. I was always good at them, but not great. But the part that I really loved and I think was a strength was more just kind of the organization around it and the creation of the events, the creation of the whether it was in music, like the band nights or promoting the opportunities, promoting the bands. I was always much better at like getting us out there and getting and selling, any things that we had around that than I was as an actual musician. So I guess yeah, those are some of the things, just like always involved. A lot of different things that was interesting. I've always kind of
What was your
gravitated
favorite
towards.
academic course at that time?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, I didn't particularly love school. I honestly, I can't say there was anything that was like I was eager to get to, right? I viewed it as kind of, okay, this is a necessary thing, this is a good thing, but I
And you
just
just have to get through it,
I
right?
just kind of got to get through it. I always wanted to be working. I always wanted to be building. I always wanted to be doing something and bringing people together. And so school was important, and I recognized that. And I did fine in school, but it wasn't something that I was excited about.
It's interesting because when I think about opportunities in leadership, I think the educational system is broken. I think there's an opportunity to completely revolutionize education in many ways. And I think what you just said goes to the heart of that school should be a place that invokes passion and creativity and excitement. And if it's not, we're missing out. We're missing
Mhm.
out on catalyzing human capital and lighting that fire like you do as a CEO, um, hopefully. And
Yeah, I think there's so many interesting things that have popped up too. Like after I completed college in 2003, there's so many like really interesting vocational schools, like modern vocational schools that have become available um, for people. And I think like back in my high school day, if there was actually some of this vocational education around entrepreneurship or digital marketing or at the time I was really into music, so like audio engineering or things like that. I think that'd be so that then school would have been like really exciting, I think.
yeah, and what's interesting now is that a lot of those programs now exist within the higher ed academia space, academic space, all across the country and globally. So I think things are changing, which is great. Kindleon, I actually know quite
Okay.
well. Incidentally, it's a place that I had clients in that I used to represent years ago, and so I visited, and so I think I've even passed by that place that I
Nice.
took time. So now, what kind of household did you grow up in?
Yeah.
Like in terms of siblings, parents, local environment, just give us a sense of that upbringing.
Yeah. Small household, mom, dad, younger sister, dogs, always. So super small family. I was really, I think just had like a really fortunate upbringing. You know, Parents are super loving, parents really strong, you know, faith-based household, and my mom and dad both were, and to this day still are, like incredible role models of hard work and discipline, and just looking at life as like a huge opportunity to really get after it and do something great. I actually can't remember many points in my life where my mom and dad were like relaxing, or they were like prioritizing leisure or prioritizing entertainment, or prioritizing like just something for themselves, right? It was like, sure, we did family trips and we did vacations and things like that, but as a kid growing up in my house, like the example that was always set, the model that was always set was like, there's so much in life that we can do in this period of time, so like, why waste that? Like, let's do something great. So it was a really I don't know, it was a good upbringing. It was a challenging, in many ways it was a challenging upbringing, but like one that was like always positive and encouraging in its challenge.
That's important. So those were kind of your seed, you know, in the speak of entrepreneurs, the seed stage for Steve. Let's move on to post-seed and a little bit more into the growth stage. So talk to us about your college years for a moment.
Yeah. So like I said, I went to Indiana University. It was a great fit for so many reasons. It's actually where my dad grew up. He grew up in that town in Bloomington. So his mom and dad at the time were living and were there. And so it kind of made sense to just kind of be like, it was like almost like second home. But it also made sense because I was huge. I kind of sensed that business school was going to be the right path, but music was still, I was still trying to like make a go at music, and the music school there is tremendous. So I thought that, all things considered, that Indiana just made a ton of sense. So I actually went in as thinking I would go the music route. So I went in and actually wanting to go the audio engineering route. I wanted to, back then, like record companies were still like a big thing, right? Like my freshman year, Napster was big, and like Metallica like sued our university for like all that, right? So at the time, like the whole recording studio business model was still a real thing. Records were a real thing. So, and I had been producing records for just my high school friends and stuff like that. So I went in as an audio engineer, and I remember getting in there and like sitting with the classmates. And then my first day I was like, oh my God, I'm so out of my league here. Like I can't cut it in this. So then I tinkered around in actually classical guitar, and because I really wanted to stay in music, but ultimately what I determined was like these kind of hard skills, these more technical skills just aren't my, what I'm super passionate about. Like a enormous appreciation for the audio engineer, enormous appreciation for the performance guitarist. But what I really was gravitating towards was like promotion and marketing and management and building something, almost regardless of what that something was, just actually building something. And so I found my way into the business school, and that is like the first time where I started to like really love school. It was really the opportunity to just like actually do real world work, because the business school that I went to was highly stimulative of a real environment, and we got a lot of opportunity to actually kind of act and simulate real sales, real marketing, real operations, real finance, and that was really fun. So that's when I was like, okay, this is definitely my path. You know, what product and what industry, okay, we'll see, but like this is definitely the path.
You know, and business school can have that impact on so many people, because it can be that forum where you can translate ideas into reality. And I guess that was the early stage of your your entrepreneurial leadership kind of starting to catalyze there. Um, what internships, if any, what companies did you work on during your college days?
Yeah. So I was kind of going back to some of my upbringing. So both of my parents were always involved in leadership, and my father was and still is very entrepreneurial and had a couple different companies. And when I was in college, one of them was a technology company, and it was scaling and starting to take off, and that was really interesting to me. And so during my internship years, I opted to go work in that business in a sales role or an accounting role, or a marketing role, and just kind of get full exposure. And that was really interesting because I didn't know it at the time, but that was very formative in my passion for startups. And I had such a limited kind of worldview at that time that I didn't really understand the comparison between what I was experiencing and a bigger organization. I found that out much later, but that was really, really exciting because I got to see so much, the whole business operation every single day. And I think that was very formative for kind of my next journey.
Yeah, you said something interesting about an inflection point, and your reference to even Napster, I find very interesting because I also kind of experienced that firsthand when Napster came into the scene and the impact it was having on disrupting or innovatively disrupting that whole space. And as someone who also loves music, played drums when I was younger and learning piano just now, and having studied theater arts and cinematic arts and technology, the intersection of tech and music and entrepreneurship, I find that fascinating. Do you remember? I remember seeing the first episode of MTV.
Yeah.
And thinking, this is going to open up a world of opportunities in business and technology and music for the world. And then, of course, the next inflection point was Napster. And then, of course, after that, so many other points in that. But like that must have, the intersection of these multiple disciplines must have influenced you in so many ways, of tech and music and entrepreneurship and business and all of that.
Yeah, I think it still does in many ways. I think that the business now, NorthPass is a software business, and so in many ways it's a very technical organization. But in most startups are actually not really building technology. Like we're not building technology; we're using technology. We're building on the backs of the giant tech companies, right? Whether it's Amazon's server infrastructure or whether it's Microsoft's development tools. Like we're actually not creating technology. We're using technology, and we're packaging it up and creating user experiences for other people to use. And so we have a half of our company that's very technical because they know how to develop and write code and leverage all of the technologies that other people have built. But at the same time, we're creating a market. We're creating markets. We're building a brand. And so I still think that a lot of that early immersion in music and in the arts is still incredibly relevant today, because that creative expression is really important in most companies, in most startups. Obviously, if you go into actually like building technology, core technology, if you're building infrastructure services, if you're building AI, if you're building the circuitry, if you're building things that power virtual reality and like core tech, then I think that those harder skills, that kind of more deeper technical rooted skill is obviously critical. But most startups these days are actually services, right? That are leveraging other core technology that other people have built. And I think that's where that creative background is so helpful. So
I mean, technology and software, if you think about it at another level, it's a domain space that's rooted in creative. Just like the language of music, or the language of film, or language of any creative artistry. Software engineers are creative artists, and they get to build and create using and leveraging the tools of technology. Bridge for us, if you would, what happened between academia, college, and the founding of NorthPass. Walk through that space in time.
So after I graduated, during the I guess my senior year, I explored kind of the classic career placement opportunities, and we had an incredible career office at our business school, and they brought in tons of big companies, like the big accounting firms, retailers, the big consumer brands. I mean, they were all there. And so I interviewed over and over and over, and went to all their sites, and they flew us out, and they treated us so well, and it was a lot of fun, interviewing at places like Target and Procter and Gamble and Best Buy, and it was really, really fun. But when it all came down to it, I was like, I don't want to work here. I don't want to work at one of these places. I think I'll go crazy. So I opted not to do that, and I opted to join my father's business. It was called Edifice, and I joined in its very, very, very early stages. There was only a few people there. Our sales were quite minimal, and so I joined there, did sales, did marketing, did support, eventually did product, and we grew that business really quickly over the course of about 10 years, and scaled it up really, really nice, turned it into a really profitable business, but yet kept really high growth rates. We never took any outside capital, no debt, no venture funding, just turned it profitable, and grew it at about as fast as you could grow a non-funding business. And that was really exciting. And then we exited that business. We were acquired by a strategic acquirer that was a NASDAQ company. And then I went to work for them. At the time of sale, I was basically serving as a GM of that business. And so I went with the sale to the acquiring company, and they were much bigger, and really helped them for a year kind of get it all integrated. They didn't buy us to be a standalone company. They bought us as a line extension for their core product offerings.
And so the classic business school M&A and post-merger integration.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. Gosh, we had a lot of fun, and what a great company they were too. They treated everybody so well, and it was really great visibility into how that actually happens post-acquisition. So that was the journey, and it was about 10 years. It was about a 10-year ride. And I would say that towards kind of the back couple years of that, right before we got acquired, some really, really interesting things were happening that inspired the founding of NorthPass. And I don't even think I knew it at the time that those things were happening, but now looking, I was like, well, that's clearly where this all came from. So one is that we had a very sophisticated data product, and we were retraining an entire industry on how to think about data. and not only how to use our tools, but actually how to think about using this data in an entirely different way to plan their business. And so we had to train people on how to use these sophisticated tools, and we had to train them on why this new methodology was actually the new and better way, and how to act, and we had to give them the blueprints to do that for them to really succeed. And so education, customer education, was a really, really central piece of that business's success. And so we did that through marketing. We did it through having a couple trainers on staff, but it ultimately wasn't that scalable, and it was quite expensive as well. And I wouldn't say our customers loved the actual experience. So that was happening. At the same time, the very, very early massively, I think they're called MOOCs, massively open online courses, were starting to come out. And you had things like Coursera and edX, right? I think Udemy started to come out a little later.
Udacity, iTunes University, edX, yeah.
And I just thought, independently of what I said before, I really thought those things were amazing, right? Because kind of earlier in some of what I talked about is like that ability to learn, to get kind of that vocational education earlier on and give students more choice. I just thought it was an incredible problem they were solving. And the experiences were really great too. So back to educating our customers, we looked at different ways to solve this problem, and we looked at a variety of learning management systems, and we found there are two types. There were academic learning management systems, which I'm sure Rutgers uses something like a Canvas or a Blackboard or something like that.
That's
and
right.
Then there were HR-oriented systems for professional development out there. But all of them were good for teaching and educating people, but none of them were appropriate for what we were trying to solve, and that was educating our customers. So
how did that translate into the aha moment of, hey, there's something here. This is a white space. There's an unmet need, and just being inspired and motivated to go deeper, discover, and then launch?
Yeah, it didn't really hit until after we exited the business, and then I went and worked for the acquiring company, and they were much bigger. They're like 15, 20 times our size and publicly traded. They had like 50,000 customers at the time. And one of the first things I got there and noticed was like, oh, you have this same exact problem with training your customers that we did, and you could probably pay like $1 million for a solution like this, right? So it wasn't, at that point, it wasn't like my own frustrating kind of nuisance of a problem. It was like, wow, this is actually like a blue chip stock problem. So that's when I was like, well, let's go try to solve this. And so wrapped up my duties there and then exited my position there and got to work on NorthPass.
So I love that. It's a blue chip problem. It's a problem that's big enough, but it'll take, and this is where entrepreneurship is a level playing ground, right? Like playing field where anyone can start something that can grow and scale into something magnificent. Even if there's incumbents and existing companies that have lots of resources to launch things, they sometimes can't. They're like the Titanic, and they have their core business and core competency, and there's lots of opportunities. So you found that white space, that unmet need, or a problem worth solving that you're inspired to. So how did you launch? Were there partners, co-founders? Were there investors? Was it bootstrapped? What was that early stage of NorthPass like?
Very difficult and a lot of learnings. I would say, Peter Thiel wrote the book 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And just the struggle of going from 0 to 1 And holy mackerel, I read that after we had gone to one, and I was like, I wish I had read this before.
That's right.
It's so, so, so hard. And I had startup experience, 10 years of it. But, when I got to the company was Edifice, we had some traction, we had a product, we had some customers. And so it was about scaling those up. And that's a very hard problem too. But to build the product and get customer number one and then get like invoice number one paid has been so different. And I thought it was going to be something in it, and it wasn't. And it's so hard. So
I call it deposit number one.
Deposit number one, exactly. Nothing matters until you get deposit number one, right?
That's right.
Everything's just an exercise until you get that. So that was really tough. I spun my wheels. We spun our wheels a lot for the first 2 years, actually. And for whatever reason, even though I had recognized the problem in the enterprise, for whatever reason, I thought it was going to be easier to start by going after actually selling into super small businesses and actually even like independent educators that were looking to educate. And I said, hey, this will be a journey, and eventually we'll end up in an enterprise. Little did I know, it's like an entirely different go-to-market model, entirely different problem set, and that was distracting for a couple of years. And so we eventually said, hey, like, this is not the right path to where we want to get to. Let's not kind of artificially create a journey to where we want to get to. Let's just get there right now. And so after about 2 years of, let's just say, playing around, we said, let's just aim at this like right out of the gate. And that's when things started working. That's when we started building real meaningful revenue. We started establishing real product fit within the markets we were going after. And then at that problem, and since then, it has become a scaling issue. And that's a lot. It's a lot different problem to solve.
Oh yeah, every phase of a startup from concept to MVP, minimum viable product, to proof of concept, the prototype, the pilot, into now you have traction, scaling. It just brings even more complex and harder problems to solve. Mm-hmm. And entrepreneurs like you thrive with those next level. It's like a sport. It's like a game. You've just gone pro, and there's bigger challenges, but there are even bigger opportunities when you get to solve them. So where's the company today? Can you share any insights? Where is the company today?
Yeah, today is awesome. We're in such an exciting phase. So we actually have taken on a couple rounds of venture capital. We're looking at potentially doing some more this year. We are about 50 employees right now, and we're looking to possibly as much as double within the next 18 to 24 months. So we'll be going up to probably about a 50% increase this year and another 50% probably next year. So, and that's all fueled by, revenue growth. It's fueled by product expansion. It's fueled by, happy customers. It's fueled by our great team. So we're still a small company. But we're growing quickly. We're scaling up, and we're having a ton of fun and doing some good things.
So, an introspection question for you: if you were to start NorthPass all over again today, as of February 26th, 2021.
Yep.
Is there a key decision? Is there one decision that you might make differently, and if so, why?
It's probably 100 decisions I would make differently, but there's a couple that I would really encourage the audience to focus in on. I think one is what I just mentioned, like, what problem are you really solving, and just solve that one problem. So I think I was enamored by this idea where we could kind of create a single platform start at the lowest end of the market, develop those customers, and then scale up to the higher end of the market. And that's just a mistake. It's, even though one product can can technically solve many problems, the product is not actually the business, right? You have product, you have the market, the audience you want to sell into, and then you have the combination of those things where you have to actually bring it to market. And so you actually have three things. You're solving the product problem, the market problem, and then the whole sales and marketing problem. And so while it may appear that the product can do so much, the marketing actually to many different audiences may be entirely different. And if you try to chase all of those things at once, it'll sink you, like it almost sank us in those early years. And so I would say, like, pick a problem and just get after that one problem, and don't get enamored by all of the potential things your one great product can do, right? Like, just think about one pricing method, one sales motion, one marketing campaign, and one use of that product, and run the course on that until, like, it's done. And then along the way, opportunities will become available. So I think that's one thing, is just hyper focus on product, on market, and on the process to get into market.
Yeah, we have a framework that we call the TPM links: technology, product, market, fit. And if you can get that right in a simple model, like you said, one product, one customer, get it right, execute it with precision and with brute force, or whatever it takes strategically, and then start replicating and expanding slowly from there to build. What would you say is your leadership style?
That's a good question. I know there's a couple other NorthPass people on this line. Maybe they should answer, but
that's fair. We'll get to that in Q&A and hear from them as well.
Look, I think I like to one of my favorite parts about business, and one of the things I think I'm particularly good at, is hiring. And so I like to hire people that can run their areas and that can run their domain. And I like to try to be really clear about where we're trying to get to, and then getting people in place that are really good at actually getting there. And so I think, I don't know, I would hope that if you surveyed people, hopefully it would come back where my leadership style is one of setting a clear direction, but also like giving a high level of autonomy and accountability too, right? Like, if you want to be autonomous, like, you also need to be equally accountable. So it's both. It's
balancing both.
Yeah.
Do you have any key core values of your company that the whole company kind of embraces?
We do. And it's a good question, because we actually just refreshed them from this year. Because I'd say, like, we crossed new milestones in the past 12 months. We're a much bigger company. We're a much more structured company. We have a whole different leadership level and executive team than we've had in the past. And so it's time to really refresh the values, right? And they do need to change every once in a while as the company scales. So we have three, and I'm really excited about them. And we just chose three because we wanted people to, like, really remember them and really make it easy to get into it. I know so many companies have like 9 or 10. It's like, wow, how's anyone gonna remember that? So we chose three. So our values are create passionate fans. And what that means is that internally amongst our teammates and externally with our customers and our partners, we're going to create fans of what we're doing and what we're building. And if our employees aren't raving about what they do at work to their friends and their family, and if our customers aren't raving about what we do to the market, then we haven't met that value. And so that guides a lot of really interesting behavior in the way we run our company. We hire, we have programs for people's growth and for the way we treat each other as teammates, and it has a lot of implications on our customer experience and the way we treat our customers. And so there's a lot wrapped into that, but at the end of the day, like, our value is, hey, like, the question we ask is, hey, have we created fans amongst our employee base, amongst our customer base, or not? Are people just kind of like, eh?
I love that. Create passionate fans.
Yeah.
Two?
Yeah. Number 2 is thrive together. And so what this means is that we hold each other accountable for our success and for our growth. And we push each other, right? We push each other really hard. I think this really comes out of a kind of a competitive team sport nature where, like, yeah, startups are not easy. Like, they're super hard. They're not the best paying jobs in the world. Like, you can go to like a Fortune 500 and probably make more in your W-2, but we're going to push each other. We're going to work our tails off, and we're going to do something great that has like a really meaningful impact. And so in that, it's just a lot about accountability, and it's a lot about hard work, and it's a lot about having tough discussions and creating something great together.
I respect that. Thrive together. Fantastic. And number 3?
Choose speed. So here I always say, like, our only competitive advantage as a startup is our ability to move quickly.
Yeah. It's being agile, nimble, fast.
Absolutely. Any big tech giant could just
right.
But they can't nearly keep pace.
That's awesome. You talk a lot about employees and these core values, and if you have your vision, mission, core values, and alignment, and you've got an amazing corporate culture, which it appears you've intentionally designed it and set that so that people can unleash their potential through that inspiration. As you recruit, do you have a favorite interview question that you'd love to ask? And what's in that question in terms of what quality or attributes are you seeking to find for someone to join NorthPass?
Yeah, it's simple. One question: what are you passionate about? And if there's hesitation, it almost DQs. I don't care what they're passionate about. It might be like playing poker. It might be video games. It might be automobiles. It might be their actual career itself. It might be philanthropic efforts and traveling to different parts of the world and doing great work. It doesn't matter to me what it is, but do they have an answer, and are they really passionate about it? And I think what we're trying to get to is, like, a startup takes passion. Like, a startup's not a 9-to-5, and it really takes hungry, passionate people that are pushing for more and more and more in every area of their life.
Love it. Love the fact that it's even bringing themselves into that company environment as part of that culture. So I have 3 rapid fire questions for you now, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Yeah.
So very quickly, in 1 sentence or 2 sentences, what's the North Star for NorthPass? Like, what's the aspiration?
Yep. Build an incredible company that has a lasting legacy, in the communities that we serve, both in customer communities and the places where our offices are, like right here in North Jersey.
Love it. Very articulate, very to the point, very clear, concise. In terms of your personal aspiration, is there anything on your bucket list that you hope one day to check the box?
Yeah.
And it could be legacy, it could be impact, it could be anything.
Sure. So I'm growing a startup, but I'm also growing a large family. So I have 4 kids and a wife. And so look, I would love for my kids to just, find their gifts, be passionate about something, do something great. So a lot of, investment is going into them and to our marriage. And so I think that's a major passion of mine. And then I think from a business point of view, look, hey, if we achieve our goal of building that great company, one day, we're not focused on it now, but one day down the road, hopefully there is hopefully this whole thing was incredibly lucrative, and there are, and hopefully there is a big payday for multiple people involved and who played a key role in getting it there. And I think that is something that'll be really fun, and because there's so much, ultimately, kind of wrapping this whole thing all up, there's so much this need in the world. Everything we talked about is like first world problems, right? Scaling a business, but like there still are 700 million people in the world that live on $2 a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how do we, like, what's the point of all this entrepreneurship? And I think at the end, it's funneling that back into helping kind of lift society and
social impact and legacy and all of that.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very respectable and inspiring as well. Something tells me, based on this conversation with you, that aspiration will become a reality for NorthPass and all of your employees. So best of luck on that. Last question. This is super rapid fire, 2 seconds per question, and it's got subparts. So here goes. Favorite song?
I can't even answer that in 2 seconds. I don't know. Baby Shark, because it's the only thing I hear on my TV these days.
Favorite movie?
Wow. Good one. Gosh, another really good one. I don't know. I really like Blood Diamond. I think that was like a great
great
fantastic movie. I love My Cousin Vinny for comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite book that you recommend to this audience?
Oh, wow. Can I say 2?
Yes.
Winning by Jack Welch.
Love it.
Execution by Ram Charan and Larry Bossidy.
Yeah, awesome. I have both on my shelf. I actually met Jack Welch in person and got to interview him and talk about his journey and experience when he retired. So just phenomenal, both books.
Amazing people.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Yes.
Okay, favorite podcast?
I really like SaaSter with Jason Lemkin. I also really like Open View Build. And I really like Inside Intercom.
Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much for sharing insights and some things about you that perhaps the audience may not have known. And now we'd like to open it up for Q&A.
Sure. Thanks for the chat, Mukesh. It's really great.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, great. We have some people coming into the chat here. Let's see. We have Jacob. Hold on. Okay. Go ahead and ask your question, Jacob.
Sure, thank you. Steve, I just want to start off by thanking you for sharing all your insight and experiences. It really helps us all entrepreneurs here. Now, my question relates to something you had mentioned a little earlier, where you said as a startup, you want to focus on, a niche solution to a problem and just run with it. But what happens if you're working on a startup where you want to be able to solve a problem, but it's not the vision you want towards the end? You want to solve a bigger problem, but in order to enter the industry, you need, some type of revenue, and that's through solving the current problem.
Yeah. I just think be careful on that. I would say, like, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer there. I think that's a very situational question that you just have to work your way through. But look, people are willing to pay money for real problems, and they're not willing to pay money for like your idea, right? So, or they're not necessarily willing to pay money for like your big vision, but they are willing to pay money for real problems. And so I think it's a delicate balance between like what is the problem that's going to generate real market value, and like what is that big vision. And like I think maybe one of the things about is like, is there a path there? Is there a trajectory there? And I just think it's a pretty situational question. You got to be really thoughtful about sorting that out. I'm sorry I don't have like a crystal clear answer on that. But you're gonna face that. You're gonna face that like every week
uh,
along your journey.
So also, Before I mute my mic, I also wanted to refer or reference a book to you. I know you mentioned one of your goals is just creating those raving fans, and I read a book actually called Raving Fans itself, and I think it also gives out great insights off of the same concept you mentioned.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to write that down. That's really cool. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Let me see. You can add it in the Q&A, or let's see. We have Simran. I'm going to unmute you now. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, so before you mentioned that you had worked with your dad after graduation at his startup, and that's kind of what led to you creating your own. But how do you think your career trajectory would have been different if you had worked at a bigger corporation after college? And then going off that, do you recommend that other aspiring entrepreneurs get experience at a startup prior to starting their own business?
Yeah. So if I went, so yes, I do recommend working at a startup. If you want to start a startup, go work at a startup for sure. I probably would have been fired very quickly if I tried to work at a bigger company, or I just would have quit, because it's such a different environment, right? And personal level, I couldn't have dealt with that. I think I would have been too contrarian or disruptive and I wouldn't have like played by the rules. I wouldn't have played well with the other kids in the sandbox, if you will. So I probably would have got fired. But I also, like, kind of more on a more serious note, if you go work at a big company, like, you're going to learn how to navigate a big company's problems. You're going to learn the big company way. You're going to learn the big company process. You're going to learn the big company problems. And even if there's like an accelerator inside the big company, or like an innovation division inside the big company, it's not the same, because it's being funded by the big company and you have access to the big company's resources. And so yes, it's innovative, but it's actually not a startup. And so I would say, if you have an aspiration to just start your own startup, like, skip the big company thing, go to a startup and get a sales job and like crush it in sales, and then learn how to sell something, learn how to promote something, learn how to deal with customers. And I think that's like the best possible advice I could give to someone who wants to start a startup. It's like, go join a startup and do sales.
You know, on that point, Steve, good point. Sometimes the best way to learn anything is just do it. The founder of Nike has a great book called Shoe Dog, which talks about, working for different companies and just not finding your thriving moment, right, until you do something. But there's some founders, like the founder of Bloomberg, for example, that was fired from a big company, or Starbucks, Howard Schultz, fired, kind of from the original company, or et cetera, or Home Depot even. And sometimes a big company can teach you where the opportunities are, because they can't do everything really well. Mm-hmm. And so it could give you perspective of systems and people and management skills, perhaps, and you can always figure out how to balance the two of extracting that value while contributing value, but then also figuring out, this is what they don't do well. Here's an opportunity, and then go out and build it.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Mukesh. Absolutely. Really, really good point. Yeah, because a lot of those big companies like have the problems that you might want to solve, right? Like, if you want to do a B2B startup and target, mid to enterprise markets, like, you could find a lot of problems in there for sure. Right. So that's really,
sometimes they don't believe in solving that problem, or they don't know how, or can't, or never will. They will never solve that problem.
Yep, that's really true. Good, definitely a good field for observation. That's for sure.
Right. And networks. You can build good networks.
Yeah.
So it looks like we might have time for one more quick question. Otherwise, I would love to just ask an open-ended question for Steve to make his final comment.
I don't have more questions coming in. My personal question for Steve was, I know that the tech sector in New Jersey is kind of small compared to, if you're looking at other big tech hubs, and a lot of people think of New Jersey as kind of a pharmaceutical type place. How do you approach your growth and just kind of being a tech leader in New Jersey?
Sure, you just got to commit. You just got to. I think you got to commit to it. And the other thing is, and it's not. There are because it's not a tech hub, there are some challenges that come with it. But there's also incredible opportunity. Like for anyone who wants to join a growing software startup company that lives in New Jersey, we're pretty much like one of one option, right? So while the talent pool is not that big, we're also not competing against Google and Apple and Facebook and you name it, right? And I'm kidding. There's more than one software company in New Jersey. There's a couple great ones actually, but there might be 5, not 5,000. So I think that while it's difficult in some respects because the overall experience pool here is not as high. Like there's not that many people who have built a company from 5 million to 50 million and exited it 8 or 12x multiple. There's just not that many people that have run that whole course. But there are lots of people that want to get into the industry and we have almost full we're going to we catch a lot of those people. And so that's the inverse.
And to that point, Steve, the last 12 months have shown us that we don't need to be in any other state in order to succeed. You can now, New Jersey is the original Menlo Park, right?
Yep.
And there's a huge opportunity to bring back a lot of that innovation and entrepreneurial spirit here. And thanks to tech entrepreneurs like you who are fighting that fight and making it happen. And
hey,
so
it's awesome. And thanks to you guys for, all the students and faculty at Rutgers for actually prioritizing this and recognizing this is a problem and let's do something about it. So it's awesome. So thanks to all you guys as well.
Yeah, we're on the same team there. We're fighting that same fight worth fighting, and so it's amazing, and we can do amazing things with within a state like New Jersey.
For sure.
With global access and talent pools. So with that, thank you so much, Steve. This was very inspirational and insightful, and we highly recommend people to take a look at the future of NorthPass and be part of that journey.
We're hiring. Come join us.
Yeah, join the company here, and we'd love to collaborate. So feel free to connect with Maria and the CEO Forum at Rutgers University or our other great programs there. If you want to connect with me, I just launched my new website, profmukeshpatel.com. We're launching a podcast and a YouTube channel as part of my media venture, and collaborate. Let's connect, collaborate, and crush it. So thank you so much, Steve, and everyone participating. Be well, good luck. And we hate missed opportunities to say we look forward to your super ultimate success and all your aspirations coming true, whether it's an IPO or a successful exit, so that everyone who's part of NorthPass gets to be part of that dream. So congratulations and good luck.
Awesome. Thanks, Mukesh. Have a great day, everybody. Nice to be with you.
Great. Thank you.